it will set in a world where there was a like destruction of family lineages, because that's essentially what all of that sugar spice and everything nice maritime machinery did. It took the men off the land and put them in the
Yep.
boats, in both the capacity of privateer sailors and the slaves that were on the boats being transported around. So it's like the entire Elizabethan pirate kingdom is the destruction of patriarchy. It's the removal of men from hearth and home.
Well, look at what Elizabeth is. The Virgin Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And of course,
Where did she steal that moniker from?
Ooh, well, that there's I've seen online speculation about whether she's a man or not. I mean the service. It's interesting that we're now. It's like we've had the funeral. We can talk about Elizabeth II. It is a problem, I think, that England's been under a queen for so long. I mean, between Elizabeth I and her pirates, Victoria and her empire, and then Elizabeth II and her longest reign. And I remember doing a blog post back when people were shrieking about whether or not, we were ready for a woman leader with Hillary Clinton. And I'm like, what, are you kidding me? The English have had women leaders for centuries. And
they started the slave trade.
They started the slave trade by way of it. Good job. Right? But this sort of, I've got the Pharmakeia on now. It's like,
wait, which one?
It's the woman with her globe and her cup, and all nations were deceived by your Pharmakeia, by your sorcery. I've done a whole transformation of what I think about those Renaissance fairs, right? But first I thought they were silly because they weren't like Puritan enough, and now I realize they're completely accurate because they're all about magic and tarot cards, which are just card games. But the feeling of the Renaissance and its Pharmakeia and the sorcery is correct. We have been deceived. Now I've got the Booster Patrol song of the "You've Been Deceived by a Deceiver" song. I wish I could sing.
Oh yes, yes. About that particular pharmacology that we're not allowed to discuss.
Right. But the thing is that we were hypnotized by it so easily for the last 100 years. Again, we've been in this Draco Alchemicus for centuries. It's the tobacco, right? Okay, so I think that's a parenthesis that we hadn't closed yet. Drake is obviously famous for bringing the tobacco back from the North America, and that crack monkey that we started with is smoking tobacco. Now I want a cigarette.
I love crack monkey. He's my spirit animal.
Isn't it interesting?
On edge, hopping away.
Here we have, since I don't have the picture, here we have crack monkey in the book, right? And and a teacup. We're gonna get to that, I promise. There's a teacup.
He's even got my hat.
He does. He's like yes. There's a crack monkey and the owl, right? The owl of the magic and the mystical. We've been abusing these drugs for ages. In the sense of not tying them, I suppose, to the appropriate spiritual power that they have. Not tying them to the liturgy, obviously.
Well, I remember we were reading about this particular thing, the transportation problem. Why these empires decided to trade certain pharmaceuticals over others, or not even pharmaceuticals, but spices, pre-refined plants and other resins and things. So what they're aiming for, at least what they were aiming for in that Elizabethan post-Elizabethan maritime period was that they needed to get things which were easy to monopolize, on things which could be divorced from a ritualistic aspect, or at least that there's. I'm thinking about this guy who actually decided to start talking to me about Amanita muscara mushrooms in Germany for some random reason yesterday. I bring
the whole
very
world
strange...
comes together and feeds the ark. Yes, carry on.
It
carry
really
on.
does. I just walk into a room and suddenly someone's talking to me about German trips, and like, yes, of course, why not? But this is not a mushroom that can be monopolized. You can't control fungi production. You can't control this particular substance. Things like tobacco, on the other hand, you can, or cacao, or coffee, or other things that were mass produced.
Well, but the thing is, I think so. This is I had planned to go here, but we've got the Pharmakeia goddess up, right? So we'll talk about her.
Okay.
That it's actually difficult to mass produce most of these things, and most of them are denatured by the time they are mass produced.
So we're getting terrible stuff.
Yes, right. So I got to go for a variety of reasons, many of the delightful, one of them to be avoiding taking the vaccine and therefore having to test on campus, therefore getting, by way of a benefactor who showed up walking past me while I was doing my prayers, a ticket to the St. John Cantius Canon's benefit dinner. It all connects. You guys know this by now. It all connects. And at the dinner I got to sit with, this was a few weeks ago, Father Joshua, who, if you all watch the video that I just reposted today from Jonathan Pajot, introduces Jonathan. Father Joshua is great. I got to sit with Father Joshua and a Knight of St. Gregory and the Bishop of Springfield and the founders of the Acton Institute and the alderman where St. John Cantius is and his wife, and a fellow author who's written a book on saints, and a cigar roller.
Fantastic.
Like, for real, a cigar roller. He does Cuban cigars, like, it's like luxury. This is a luxury dinner because it's a fundraising for the canons, and I'm there on a gift, right? And Senor Ortiz, right, lovely young man, is telling, he does cigar rolling. So the thing is, I think
it sounds like a character out of Cluedo.
He's real. All of these people are real. I end up, teasing the guy whose brother was the actor in The Sopranos, for goodness sake.
Fantastic.
About, stuff. But that I think with our Pharmakeia, we don't, I would say, this is going to flip over, we don't respect them. We don't respect the substances. We don't respect the drugs. We vending machine them into these debilitating highs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of understanding their power. And I zoomed through to get to the pirates. Maybe the pictures of the gifts of the Magi. Maybe I'll go back to those now.
Oh, beautiful.
I have to do this by slideshow, so we go like, here we are. Here we are with the gifts of the Magi, which is myrrh, frankincense, and gold. Gold is an aphrodisiac, a pharmakeia of one sort, right? But frankincense and myrrh, I think we've talked about now I don't remember, because I've been reading a lot about the temple and such. The incense in the temple is a narcotic of some sort, right? It's psychotropic. Maybe psychotropic is better. And myrrh is, of course, what was offered to Christ on the cross. Wine mixed with myrrh because it was a painkiller, which he refused. So, these are the original drugs. These are the precious substances and drugs in the This is good in the Age of Intoxication book, the crack monkey book. That drugs are in fact originally called, they're basically dry goods, right? They're these things that could travel on the camel caravans across Eurasia along the Silk Roads. So they're precious enough to merit that level of transportation. And of course, the reason for the maritime trade in the 16th century of the Europeans is because they want to capture that drug trade. They want to capture those spice routes across the continent, and they're doing it by going around Africa and then around the world.
So that's it's the same trade. It's just on the water as opposed to the land.
Right. I mean, the drug trade flips from land to sea. It's not just pirates that do the drug trade. They do it by camels too. And they do it across the Sahara.
Of the desert.
They do it across the Sahara. I mean, they do drugs, gold, ivory, and slaves across the Sahara.
Yes.
Monsieur West mentioned Mansa Musa. I think, that we need to do Mali next.
Oh, yes, he did. My ears pricked up.
As I'm glad. We are paying attention to the right things.
Yes. Well,
okay, we'll go back to the pirates
ships.
Now. We carry on. Therefore,
Yes.
The gifts that the Magi bring are quite significant. Okay, so we've got the women. Here we get back to the women. I'm showing Jack Sparrow with his women, who are not the wholesome ones.
The wenches, no, the terrible wenches that were definitely prostitutes.
Let's see what we have next. Oh, we have Pharmakeia. We were there.
Well, that's the other
now we have
aspect
tea.
of that human traffic.
I put these things together in the slides for a reason. Now we have tea because, of course.
Oh, we're on tea.
No, we're on tea, which is what Tom Holland as this character. He's magnificent. Do you know his other roles from the guy who plays the baddie of the East India Company? So one of his other great roles.
Yes, the short one.
The short one is Rev.
Yes.
He's a reverend. He's this Anglican priest in inner city London, with this shrinking congregation, and it's brilliant. He's excellent. Yeah. So seeing him as the baddie in the Disney glamoranza is pretty funny. So he's drinking his tea, and then he's gonna go to the destruction of his fleet because the pirates are beating the corporation. Hurrah.